certain degree, you know.
You might have a problem working for people that are not as smart as you are, perhaps. You
I've
are.
always had that problem. Yeah. When you can put a square peg in a round hole, they don't like you. And that's the problem that I've
Right.
always had and
That's right.
experienced, you know.
You must
And
be a true entrepreneur then.
yeah, I
True
need to work for
entrepreneur.
myself.
Hey, that's cool. I couldn't either. I tried it.
It's hard. It's difficult. Something always happens, you know, where when you're on a job, something will happen to like push you out that door, like go do your own thing, you know.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, let's
So
just do it.
I
Let's
had
do it.
quite a few business licenses, and when I choose to operate them, I do. And my friend, God bless the dead, she said, "You're the only person I know who'll say, I want to get a job. You go get a job just like that. And then you come out that job and you start a business and it works."
How real. You must be in your blood.
Yeah, I think so. From my father's side, I guess.
Okay.
They're all
Oh.
business oriented. Hmm.
Well, Roundup, thank you for joining us. I am Kris Haskins, and my mission and ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Today, I've got Miss Blair on the line with us because she was watching one of the videos. I saw her comment, and she had some unbelievable insight on some things that are going on in the real estate industry, especially regarding, let's just say, government subsidized tenants. Is that okay? Can I put it like that, Blair?
Yes.
So we're going to get a little backstory on Blair, where she's her history. She's a broker. She's been a broker since, I'm going to say, 2007 or 5. But I want you to
Yep.
hear her story, and she's going to tell the backstory, and then we're going to get into this charge and I guess the allegations about this discrimination, because it's real. This stuff is
Yeah,
real,
this is real. Yeah.
you know. And I want my
Get a
Roundup.
disgruntled tenant, prospective tenant, and they can, you know, you can find yourself a victim of discrimination just because they didn't get an apartment.
Yeah, that
The
stuff's real.
basic, well, actually, I've been in the real estate industry since 2004.
Mhm.
I started after I retired. I was a counselor at a not-for-profit organization in a particular state. Um, this woman I worked for, she was one of the first pioneers in the fight against AIDS, HIV, and housing the homeless population.
Gotcha.
Okay, I took a job as a counselor. The housing specialist who was responsible for placing, initially, I took the job as a counselor. We had a housing specialist who was responsible for housing the homeless population. The homeless population would come to our organization through the Human Resources Administration. They may have been singly diagnosed or triply diagnosed with whatever, anything from active substance abusers to HIV/AIDS, you name it.
Yeah.
So her responsibility, my coworker's responsibility, was to house them within a specific period of time, or the agency would not keep up their funding. She went out sick, and let me just backtrack a minute. She housed about 2 people within, say, a 3-month period of time. She went out sick, and I took over. I took over her responsibility, and I housed all 16 people within a month. I was able to connect with different landlords at that time, who I am still connected with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a circle of owners that I'm still connected with from that time, and they have, different holdings, blah blah blah. And as of today, I'm finding myself. I went from housing, let me just say this, housing a woman who laid over, what do you call the street grate to stay warm in the winter because she had nowhere to live, from housing someone like that to finding myself a victim of discrimination because an individual during the height of COVID, came to inspect an apartment. I never met this individual, by the way.
Hold on. Before we get to the story, Blair, I want to make sure I set the scene, though, so people know where we're going.
Okay.
Roundup, if you're just joining us, we almost have 40 people on here. Listen, if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you a huge goodie, y'all. You got to stay to the end, then, though. I'm going to give you a coupon code. You can get my private money presentation training course. I'm going to give you 70% off, guys. So listen, if you stay to the end, I'll give you that code. Miss Blair, set it up for me. Give us the story, 40,000 foot view of just a day of showing property, so we can kind of get a visual of what that looks. What does showing property look like for you?
Any given day, let me just say this. I only work with government programs. That's my specialty.
Housing choice voucher, substance
Whatever.
abuse. Okay.
Yes.
Disabled veterans.
Yes. As long
Gotcha.
as they're homeless and in need, as long as they fit that criteria, or chronically homeless,
Yep.
those are the individuals that I seek to house.
Well, that
I
comes with that,
rarely
though, right?
work with working people. For some strange reason, it just hasn't worked out.
But doesn't a lot come with that, Miss Blair?
Well,
I mean,
what
it's not like I
happened?
just work with those people. I mean, you got that stuff has a lot of
Responsibility.
responsibilities. I mean, I want people to understand that's not just, we work with tenants and that's it. I
Well,
mean,
what happens is they're referred to, when I did work at the community-based organization, they were referred from the Human Resource Administration in the particular jurisdiction that they lived in. Some even came from as far as out of town, because this particular area is just easier to house people. Say, for instance, Washington, D.C., a great metropolis, people can find apartments relatively easy. They can come from anywhere and get an apartment relatively quick because of the resources that are available.
mhm.
And excuse me if I'm fumbling. This is my first time doing this.
You doing perfect. You good.
Okay. And so so a typical day at that time, let me just say this. I moved on to start my own business housing the homeless population. I came out of that. I gave my job up for someone who needed a job.
Wow.
I quit and started doing it on my own. Eventually, I got my broker's license, blah, 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 blah. And I started my own little thing with housing clients. And it's a cycle. I have the same landlord since 2003 to this day. And they give me apartments. And so a typical day would be, sometimes I reach out to them, like on Craigslist or GoSection8.com or, some website here or there. Some people come to me by word of mouth. I contact their caseworker, do a needs assessment. I find out what the payments are. I discuss everything with the property owner. We inspect the apartment, the client and I. I communicate, both the client and I, we communicate that information to the caseworker. The caseworker will come out and inspect the apartment from the city and approve the apartment, and the payoff is shortly afterwards.
Mhm.
And it
Okay.
continues, and it just goes pretty easy. I make it plain and simple. I cut out all the other nonsense, plain and simple. Certain questions we can ask, and certain, most we're not allowed to ask, and it's gotten worse.
Are you going with their so just for a typical day, so I can frame it up for my round-uppers? Are you I mean, when you're showing a property, say the landlord, if I were to call you, Miss Blair, I need you to show 123 Easy Street. How does that look? What does that look like? Showing it, because for us, we put a lockbox on it, and I'm done. I don't even want
They'll give me the key,
to. Okay,
or sometimes the property owner will show the apartment on my
gotcha,
behalf.
gotcha. Okay,
Or I'll have someone there to show the apartment.
okay,
We take pictures. I have my clients sign off on the pictures that this is the condition that you found the apartment in, and this is what I expect when you leave. Blah blah blah.
gotcha.
Minus normal wear and tear, and pretty in a nutshell, that's it. And it's been going on like that for years.
Yeah.
And some of the properties, I even sell. So some of these these owners, when they're ready to sell, the new property owner will put me in charge of renting the apartment. So you see, it's a cycle.
Wow.
Well, it's been like that since that time.
You must be doing a good job.
Yeah, I think I do.
You must. You must. People keeping you on. All right. So we're showing these units. You're not thinking anything about it. You're following the guidelines there. Are there any classes that you go to make sure that, I don't know, questions you can't ask, certain things you can't, I'm presuming that you can't presume for other people?
Every 2 years as a broker, we're required to take continuing education. And fair housing is one that we are required to take like every year. Once you reach your 15th year, well, it's new now, new rules, mandates. You no longer have to take those classes. But now, even if you've reached your 15th year, you have to take those classes.
Gotcha.
They continue in education. And that keeps us abreast of all the new rules and regulations, what you can say, what you cannot say. Now, the tenants, on the other hand, to be quite honest with you, they are being informed not to discuss their income with the broker or the property owner, not to say if you've been evicted, not to say if you have any problem.
Good Lord.
They are told not to have it in writing. They are not required to disclose it. So you can get a professional renter and from the program. Now, just to mention, the program pays the rent 100%.
Yeah.
In some cases, if the individual is receiving an additional income from SSI, SSD, public assistance, whatever, they are required to pay 30% of their income.
So, Miss Blair, how does a landlord or an owner go about renting any place if you don't know how much they make? I'm presuming, I'm just thinking about myself. I'm like, that's the first thing I want to know. How the hell much money do you make?
It depends on the state you're in.
Okay.
It depends on the state.
All right. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it depends on the state. So you have to check your state guidelines. And let's say if it were New York, for example, could you repeat that question again? I'm sorry, because my phone rang. And
I'm just trying to understand, how can I gauge?
How would you know? Yeah.
How would I gauge? I'm like, who the hell are you to say? I mean, to say it's a private pay. You know, I'm like, I got $1,000 mortgage or whatever. You know, I mean, whatever. How am I going to determine whether I want to mess with you?
That's true.
Is that just one of the battles that landlords have to deal with in certain states?
Yes, and it's gotten worse. Let's take New York, for example. It's gotten worse.
I heard it got worse up there a few months back. An attorney friend told me. But that's not everywhere. But let's just say for that an example. So luckily with the government subsidized tenants, that's not a major concern because the government's paying the majority, if not all of it.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right.
What happens is this. Let me just say this. Say, for example, they are on SSI, SSD. They would be the tenant would be required to pay 30% of their income towards the rent. If they don't pay it, the city doesn't do anything. You know, the payer doesn't do anything. They'll tell you to take the client to court if it builds up. And in some cases, they can go to the Human Resources Administration and they will pay it for them.
Gotcha.
That's even with Section 8, with any of the programs. They will pay the back rent for them, and they may have them pay back some way or another.
They may. All right, so you're doing your thing. Since 2005, whatever. Now you show another place. No doubt you're not even thinking about discrimination against anybody. No. You've been down this road a million times. Paint the picture for us. So I'm just dying to hear this story about this. In the world, this
individual.
Yeah, I'm like, I've been down the road too. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm just me.
Okay, so had an apartment for rent, right? For government program applicant. Again, I only work with programs. Period. The landlord allowed me. I'm out of state, as I said, in another state as a result of COVID. The landlord allowed me to have the client come over and see the unit. And because of COVID guidelines, you know, there's different ways now that we can show virtual, or if the prospective tenant chooses to come and see the unit, they can just come on and go. We'll just set it up and open the door for them. They can go look around, take pictures, blah, 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 blah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I had a tenant, property owner and I, for this particular apartment.
Okay.
We didn't know what happened because we never received the checks. I never received the broker's fee. The property owner never received the check. And this was like over a 3-month period of time. And we just didn't hear anything. So we looked for a backup tenant. And it was explained to the backup tenant, If the other tenant does not come along, you are more than welcome to rent this apartment. The
Okay.
tenant said to me, okay, I have a very difficult time finding finding an apartment under the programs. I said, I
They
understand that.
might. They might. Yeah.
I said, you're having a difficult time because the with regards to the new rules and payments, I said some tenants don't pay their share, so the landlords are reluctant to take them. And not only that, they destroy the apartment. And I gave him an example of the same building with an individual who resides on the premises, the property owner, you know, brand new apartment, beautiful. She is to this moment as we speak breaking things up in the apartment. The
Oh
property
my.
owner just called me as he just called me. That's what broke my concentration. Right. He's tearing
Got a
that
big
apartment
conversation to
to
have with
pieces.
someone.
Not realizing that the city inspected the apartment when you moved in this apartment, they didn't approve you to move into the apartment, a broken up apartment. So it's going to show you
Yeah.
did the damage, the refrigerator, you name it.
Mhm.
So the individual, I says, okay, you can take the apartment if the other person does not pop up, because we already have the contract in preparation. We already sent it to the Human Resources Administration for payment, blah, blah, blah. And when I mentioned that the difficulty, because we cannot, because some of the individuals don't pay their share, and it gets to a point sometimes when they have to need to pay 70% of the rent, they don't pay it.
They're just like,
They don't care.
ride it out.
They don't care. Um, he immediately became very belligerent, started screaming and yelling at me. He says, this, and this was over the phone. Again, I never met this person. He says, she says, this is discrimination. This is discrimination. I'm going to file a
Oh,
complaint against you.
big word.
I didn't believe it. He said,
Big
you're
word.
discriminating against me because I'm in a program. Now, I did explain to him, everyone residing in the building is on program. They're on government assistance. How is this discrimination? You are a backup tenant. He filed a complaint, which in my opinion should not have gone anywhere. Because if I get through the human rights review board, or whatever you call them, if I'm showing you, and I have proof since 2004 that I rent to programs, and I'm showing you as recent as last month that I rented to a program where an individual needs to pay XYZ, whether
Mhm.
they pay it or not is not the issue. The issue is, am I discriminating against you because you're on a program, and am I discriminating against you because you need to pay a share? I only just gave you a scenario of the difficulty in finding housing because of the situation. So
Mhm.
I said it's a good thing, when clients do pay. I said it's a stepping stone, and eventually you can move forward to home ownership.
Mhm.
They can
Yeah.
move, and I'll tell you why I said that. They can move forward to home ownership because there are some programs that pay 12 months rent in advance to the property owner if the individual is employed. One, okay, you must be employed. You must be able to meet the monthly rent once the yearly lease is up. So,
Gotcha.
example, they paid 1,800 per month for this one apartment times 12. That's what the human resources is paying. You should have enough
Good
money to
money.
get a house by the end of even before the end of the year.
Saving up, you mean?
Right, saving up your
That's
money.
the
Right,
wow.
which I help them also move forward to permanent, to home ownership. And I explained all that to him. And next thing I know, in the mail, I get a complaint of discrimination, housing discrimination.
Now, is this a new tenant, Blair, or is this somebody that's already been around with you?
This is a brand new tenant that was referred to. They all come through referrals. Everybody's a referral. Yeah, this is a new tenant that came to see the apartment
So
as
I'm
a backup.
back. Well,
Yeah,
I'm trying to understand the story. They're a backup tenant. I mean, I'm a little confused when you had this conversation with them as they're applying. They know that they're a backup tenant.
right.
Why are we even? Are you doing this because you? I feel like Do you have empathy for these people? Why are we even talking to them if they're a backup tenant? Where
Well,
is this?
because we didn't know what happened to the tenant that was contracted for the apartment originally, and we did not. It wasn't applied to COVID. We wasn't hearing anything from Human Resources Administration. The property owner had waited like over 2 to 3 months for a payment, so we felt the correct thing would be to look for a backup. And then
I
boom,
see.
the regular tenant came along.
Oh, I see. I
Oh
see.
yeah, I'm
That's
sorry, I
strange.
missed that part. Yeah, he came along the
He just
very next week, as a matter of fact.
okay. So he's gone. Not returning phone calls. We don't know where he is. Boom. Let's
Yeah,
move
and
forward.
then boom, out
Okay.
of poof. Yeah.
Let me reannounce. We got almost 70 people here. Blair, round up. If you're just joining us, I'm hanging out with Blair. She's dealing with some discrimination issues and with a prospective tenant. And I just want her to share the story with you. Please listen carefully because little words that you use, people can turn it around. They've done it to me
Yeah.
too. They'll turn it around on you, and then you're looking crazy. Now you got to go answer a bunch of questions with the board. All right.
Correct.
Thank you, Blair, for joining us. And stay to the end. I'm going to give you a coupon code for my private money training course. Got to stay to the end, though. All right. So we're here. They're saying your discrimination. Where are we at? What's the next step? You're on the phone. You're like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I'm not looking at my track record.
Yeah, I show my track record. I get a letter in the mail. It's documented 20 pages in the mail from housing.
Get out of here. That could be
Yeah.
scary. They got some teeth. They got legal aid.
Yeah, and not only that, my license is at risk.
That's right. You're a broker.
Right.
Oh gosh.
So they work in concert with each other, the human rights division groups and the real estate board. So they need to communicate, hey, this person discriminated. And not only that, they called my real estate school to find out if I took courses, which I was very surprised that they called my real estate school. They questioned all the tenants that are currently residing on the properties, asked them if I discriminated against them. And anyway, I asked them how much they made, what their income was prior to renting, because they don't want you to ask these questions. And so I completed the document. I completed the
Was it a questionnaire or something?
beyond a questionnaire, about 50 questions. So I submitted that question by question. I answered very clearly and concisely. And armed with that knowledge, the investigator should have said, hey, this person only works with programs. How is this discrimination? The case should have been immediately dismissed.
Yeah, you're almost the reverse of discrimination.
Like I'm being discriminated against in a sense.
Yeah, you're like, if anything, I would think it would be people regular private pay as opposed. You're helping people that can.
Exactly right. I work with private people, but I rarely get them because the rents are so high and they don't like to pay the broker's fee. So what I do in cases like that, I usually I'll charge 50% of the broker's fee when I get a worker person, because I know it can be pretty expensive, to rent and pay in ways.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you're filling out this questionnaire, you sent it in. So I'm presuming that they have legal aid. These, for what I've experienced, low income people, they have they have so much access to legal representation that would cost you and me thousands of dollars.
Yes. Yes, I completed the documents. I showed my track record. I've been doing this. I still have paperwork and leases, a few here or there. I just never got rid of them, and I'm glad I didn't since 2004. That's proof, right? So I showed the proof. I showed receipts that, listen, Jane Doe and John Doe, they pay a share of their rent. They're residing on this property now. They're on a government program. They pay a share.
Okay.
That should have been the end of the case right there. There should be no more room for question. No, but I'm still being investigated. So the real estate board, I was supposed to have an interview. I'm not going to say the date. She can't cancel, to another date. Like, I have time to sit around and wait for her to call me and talk to me about what happened. She just wants to know. The investigator wants to know what happened. It's just crazy. And the state attorney general has made it so difficult for property owners now. It's
Yeah.
just it's insane. Like they have to pay water, light, you know, whatever. And
For the
the
tenants.
control is in the hand of the tenant.
The owners are paying utilities, correct?
In this particular case, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
guess
see a
what?
lot of that too.
If he's not, well, he will get rent because the program pays regardless.
Yeah.
But if it was a working person and they didn't pay the rent and the lights went off because the owner needs the money, then the property owner would be in trouble.
Wow, man. Deep stuff. Round up. Get your questions in here from Miss Blair. This is some good stuff. So we're literally in the middle of this thing. Where are you at? What did you? I want to know. What is your mindset? What are you thinking? I mean, at nighttime, no doubt, your license is in the air. I mean, good gosh.
Yeah, like from my license from 2004, I've
Yeah.
never ever had a complaint.
Yeah, the board is serious. Those dudes. I mean, I guess a
I've
group of.
never had a complaint, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and so sometimes in life things happen. I'm looking at it from a positive note. Sometimes in life things happen so that you could step outside of the box and jump to do something different.
Maybe.
So at 4:30 in the morning, I turned on my phone to YouTube and you popped up. You and the guy with the 70 houses. I said,
Mark, yeah.
that's why this happened to me. It's time to go to step B. Okay.
What are you thinking? Like owner or what? What do you mean?
I'm a home. Yes, I am a homeowner, but now I'm ready to go to step B and get my 70 houses too. And thank you for popping up.
Gotcha.
Sometimes in life, I'm going to look at it like that. How and I'm going to win this because I'm not going to give up because I did not discriminate, and I have proof that I didn't discriminate.
I think the anticipation is worse than the verdict for you.
Yeah, there you go. It's just the anticipation. Yeah.
Your mind is like, what do they do? What are they looking? What are they saying? Who's saying what? Who are they talking to? I'm like, a million scenarios could be going on in your mind. I remember when I got audited from the IRS, you think all this stuff. And then at the end of the day, they say, you know what, Blair, we love her. You're good. So
then you're good. Yeah.
Anticipation.
Sometimes it's just a wake up call in life to do something, to move forward onto something else, to take another step.
Yeah, because I'm just like, who's preventing this from happening again? I mean, poor me. Well, we don't know who this person is, but no doubt.
Yeah, like me.
Their character is questionable if they're going to make these allegations. So, and you clearly are dealing with people already on the program. So why in the hell would you even say that? That makes sense.
I let me just say this. I was told by the other by the super of the building that the individual that came by, he was drunk. That's another thing. Yeah. So
document that. We got to document that too.
Yeah. I wish he had his picture. And he was drunk and he knocked on other doors and asked about the property, and he could have he would have been drunk because he could have been a tester because they sent out testers to see if you're going to discriminate.
Oh,
Get that if people are not aware, and a tester is someone who will call you, a real estate broker or a property owner, to ask if you have an apartment to rent. I have 6 children. They'll say all what they think are the right things and wait for you to discriminate. Next thing you know, you have a letter in the mail.
Well, let me ask you, I'm not familiar with the laws like you are, and obviously they're different from state to state, but there is a fire code that so many people can live in a 1 or 2 bedroom, Miss Blair. I mean, it's like some people try to violate that. If we can't ask how many dependents, I mean, how are we going to protect our property from not being violations of fire code violations?
Fire code?
Yeah.
It's difficult. Let me tell you, the tenant, the one that's breaking up the apartment as we speak, she continuously takes down the smoke detector.
Oh my Lord!
I had another one. She took the window guards out. Her child, we have her on video. Her child was hanging out the window.
Wow!
She took the window guards out to put in a window AC. And they take the smoke detectors out so that they can smoke. So
Yeah.
they're annoyed by the beep beep beep.
Lord, people something, boy. There's something.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we wish the best for you, Miss Blair. I think that from your demeanor here, it sounds like you have a pretty good track record and documentation to prove your side.
I do. Thank you so much. I'll just be glad when this nightmare is over so that I can go on to my next. Well, I'm going to go to my next step regardless.
Yeah.
So, I just don't want to find myself fighting for my license.
Yeah, that's a rough one. The board is serious. I know around here, the board, they investigate that stuff. If someone makes an allegation, you got to just show the proof.
Yeah, just show the proof,
The
and then
proof.
maybe it's over with.
It's over with. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a lot.
Well, I've got 60 people on here wanting to listen to what you have to say. I'm honored to listen to you, and I got some.
Thank you.
I've had 35 minutes with you. Let's get to some Q&A. You mind answering some questions for some
Absolutely.
roundup members here? Well, this
Absolutely.
is cool. We got a lot of people from Maryland, Orlando, Sylvia. Michael, today is not self-directed Roth IRA, but if you send an email or question on the website, I'll get to that stuff too. Phoenix, hey, Jamon Hampton. Tam, what's up, Tam? Daniel, is Tam black? Is this racial? Are they saying she discriminated against another black person?
No, it's called income discrimination, and I apologize that I did not mention that.
Income discrimination. Frame that up for me, Miss Blair, so we can understand.
Income discrimination is when you refuse to rent to an individual based on their income, when they have a reliable source of income from the city, such as SSI, SSD, or whatever other income that they have. So they call it income discrimination. Some property owners, going back, will not rent to individuals that are in government programs that do receive an additional income because they don't pay.
They might not.
So they started a law as a result of that, that you cannot discriminate based on income. And this is what the individual did. He started screaming and yelling, say, "Oh, you're discriminating against me because of my income."
Mm-hmm. So is the discrimination coming in? I'm trying to figure out the income, not income. The rent is being paid.
Right.
Where would you possibly discriminate? I'm trying to figure if he were to make a point, where are you discriminating? I mean, he only has so much to pay.
Right. 30%. So and he just started going crazy.
So some owners don't want the government portion. They don't want to deal with anybody that even has
to pay a share.
I got you. Okay.
It's more of a headache because they don't pay it.
Gotcha.
And it's
happens. Well, shit. People don't pay the regular rent. I mean, how the hell? Regular people don't pay rent or mortgages. Your Casa, hey, do you, Miss Blair? Do you have your own brokerage?
I do.
Yeah, you got a lot to lose. Lose. Your Casa has another one. Kris, you emailed the other day. I'm looking for landlords to work with. How do you find the landlords to work with, Miss Blair, and what kinds of questions do you ask them when you talk to them? That's a good question.
I go through a whole series of questions with prospective property owners as to what they're looking for. And one of the things I let them know, I'm not going to rush and rent the apartment because some of them want to rush to get the money. But when you rush, you get a problem. You rush to a problem.
Rush. Yeah.
So there's quite a few things, and it depends on the program. So, for example, if it's Section 8, you're going to need their Social Security number. They have to have trust in me that I'm not going to disclose that information other than to the Social Security. Not Social Security, to housing, right? And then in some cases, what I do is I'll complete the paperwork and I'll let them add their own Social Security number and direct deposit. I'll give it to them and have them mail it or deliver it or seal it and have it delivered to the caseworker at or housing specialist at Section 8.
At the department. Let's stay here for a minute, Ms. Blair. For my rounduppers that don't quite understand they're used to dealing with private pay. I've got a bunch of Section 8 tenants as well. I am familiar with it, but just kind of give it, how does that look? And that's where the guarantee, I don't want to say guarantee, that's where the government
Guaranteed rent.
assistance, yeah, I'll say the guarantee rent. Just explain it to my rounduppers that don't quite understand that. You have to fill that out, direct deposit.
Well, the direct deposit, that if a client, if a
Once they're approved.
yeah, once they're approved, right. That share of the rent that they are required to pay, the property owner has the option to have it sent direct deposit. In some states,
We don't have that option here.
they
That is
might
the
still
only
pay
option.
the check.
They used to, they cut the checks out. Remember, think about it. They're wasting millions of dollars in direct mail and ink
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
stamps, right?
it depends on the state that you're in.
Yeah. So they have to fill that stuff out, and it can be considered to be private. I wouldn't care if you were managing my stuff. I'm like, man, just take it over, get it over with.
Yeah, the main portion of the rent will just go direct deposit.
Yes, roundup. I want y'all to understand that. So they turn
The
in all
main
that.
portion. And some tenants are not even required to pay any share. So
Anyway,
there are some that are not required to pay, but we're not allowed to ask them that question. We won't know until after the fact.
gotcha.
And also, one of the other programs, the Human Resources Administration will pay the rent in full every month. You won't know that the applicant is working until your rent payment is cut short. So it can be cut short as much as 50%. And you wonder, well, what happened? And the tenant's not going to say, oh, well, I'm working, or I started receiving SSI, or they won't tell you. All you know is like your rent is 50% short until you call the caseworker and find out, oh, well, John Bell knew. We sent the letter and we told them, you said this is, they give them a budget and tell them this is what you need to pay. But, it's up to the honor to disclose that information. If they don't disclose it, and if it backs up, and it has, I've heard of thousands of dollars backing up, you have to go to court, because the agreement is between the tenant and the landlord, and not the landlord and the Human Resources Administration or the payer.
Yeah, because the housing department, the caseworker is going to do all that income stuff. They're not going to talk to you about that.
Right. In some cases they do, but for the most part, it depends with the HIPAA laws, and it's difficult for a property owner. I mean, I would still suggest Section 8, though. It's guaranteed rent or any of the programs.
Yep.
The main thing you need to worry about is just the character of some of the people, and but that's with anybody, even with working people. You get a character that's a heck of a character. I had to evict a police officer.
What?
Yes.
Get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Was that recent or?
Oh, that was in 2015.
Evict a police. That is terrible to hear that, man.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be out here defending the public, and you ain't even paying your rent.
Want to pay his rent.
If you don't care about sharing, what was this? If you don't mind, what was the issue? Did he had to have the money?
He just didn't want to pay. He didn't have an issue.
That's crazy.
He just didn't want to pay, and he made the money, and he walked in and out like everything was okay. Complained if it wasn't warm enough, or on the premises, or
yeah. That's crazy. You are talking round up. It's 65 people here. Get your questions in the chat box. And at the end of our presentation here, I do have a treat for you for my private lending presentation and my training course. Jermaine, there's so many things you can easily violate the Fair Housing Act. People do it all the time inadvertently. That could be true.
It's you can violate that Fair Housing Act, not intentionally though. It happens. Like this individual, he under the income discrimination is under fair housing is income discrimination. And he said that I discriminated against his income. He didn't give me a chance to finish talking. He just started screaming and yelling.
Yeah, I think he might have been best off being quiet with that anyway. After people start going crazy. Miss VSNC sounds like a setup. The initial prospective tenant comes suddenly after a backup complains.
I don't think so because the initial tenant is very comfortable in the apartment. In fact, the human, well, at least he told me that they called him and he says everything was fine. So I'll know hopefully sooner than later. He said they asked him a couple of questions and basically if I discriminated.
Crazy.
And it has nothing to do with race because I have a balance on this property.
Yeah.
Of all races.
PB, hey, thank you. Let's see. Roundup, thanks for coming in. California in the building. Michael says, no weapon formed against you, Miss Blair, shall prosper. They're praying
Thank you
for
so
you.
much. I've
That
been
is
praying about this because, it's just,
stress.
it makes no sense.
Stress.
I don't know. But again, like I said, in life, sometimes God will push you in another direction to make you elevate yourself. And it's about that time because I've been renting, but I have this passion and this empathy for the underserved population
Mm-hmm.
that I like to help them. And I will still help the underserved.
That is so nice of you to do that. All right. Roundup. If you don't have any other questions, I really just wanted I wanted you guys to hear this story. When she mentioned it, I'm like, you know what? We need to learn this because I know sometimes I can just kind of get, when you don't think about violating words that you're using. You're like, I got to get the right person in here. I got to get the right income. Got to make sure it's clean. Got to check this. You're not thinking about discriminating. I mean, I just want the person to pay the rent.
Yeah.
I just want the rent paid. It's such a small concern. And then you don't know how they're receiving it. I remember one time people said I said something and then I got a call from legal aid. You talk about stress and I don't even have a license to lose.
I just gotta stay calm with it. I'm not like whoever that was that said no weapons formed against you shall prosper. I'm not like, I believe in God, but I'm not all holy roly doing the hallelujah stomp. But
Yeah.
I believe in God and he'll take care of it.
You're right. All right, roundup. If you want to, I'm going to give you a special now before we get Miss Blair to give us her final thoughts on this stuff. If you go ahead and use the coupon code RENT, this is today only, just because you have chosen to support my channel. You can get my private money lending training course for 65% off. It's under $100 just today till midnight. Use the coupon code. The link is in the video description. Use the coupon code RENT because I want you to get your rents. And if you learn how to raise private money, you can buy all the houses you want, right? We don't use banks to buy houses. We use private money, roundup. So go ahead and use that and get your discount. Miss Blair, final thoughts for my rounduppers. What are you going to tell them to keep in mind? No doubt you're a little more mindful now when you're talking to people.
Yes. What I'm going to say is this to any property owner, I would suggest to a realtor or, even the prospective tenant, go to the fair housing and to your state attorney general website and look up rules and regulations on fair housing and anything to do with housing and rental so you don't make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, mistakes are made to happen so that we learn from them. But, I would suggest you just look that information up. And I would suggest for any potential tenants to review their guidelines as well and give the property owners respect, with the properties in. If they have to pay a share, pay it. Just follow the guidelines. That's all you can do because when it comes down to it, and if you are called upon, they're going to go back. That's what they're going to go back to, that rule, that guideline, subsection this or subsection that. Mm-hmm. Even if you have to read a page a day or whatever, I would suggest anyone and everyone to review those guidelines for their particular state because they differ slightly.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking being a landlord, I'm out here wheeling and dealing, Miss Blair, raising money, looking at houses, construction sites, all that stuff. Would it be wise for someone like me just to use a broker that's going to do the training as opposed to me having to be abreast of all this? I mean, I have a landlord tenant guide in my drawer here that they give us for free. You can request it from the state. Would it be wise just to use somebody like you just to kind of say, hey, listen, we'll pay you to deal with this stuff? Because we
You
don't
could,
have.
but you need to make sure that they're going to be on top of the game. That they're going to be doing the right thing and communicating all the new rules and laws to the property owner. Let me just say something else that's important with regards to lead-based paint. Properties that were built before 1978 or proposed to have lead in the paint.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to suggest to property owners is to do a lead-based paint inspection and get that certificate and hold on to it. And I've been looking at some of the other states to see if the rule applies in every state, and I believe that it does. There's also a form that you need to complete. It's a law in certain states, in New York, Georgia, Washington, D.C. so far, that you have to find out if there are children in the home under 6 years old. The tenant needs to complete that form. And
for the lead-based paint, or
the lead-based paint form, yes, it's a new one, not the old one that says put your initial. Yeah, there's a new one to say, hey, yes, there's lead-based paint here. There's not, but this one here says, do you have children in your home under 6 years old? Gotcha. If you do, you please make sure that you do a professional check, because if, God forbid, if a child gets poisoned somewhere else and he lives in your house, guess who they're going to say the poison came from?
You.
Right. Or if you have children visiting under 6 years old. So it's a mandate that the property owners must have the client complete this document about the children residing in the home. And if they don't, what will happen eventually in New York State and in Georgia, HPD will come to your house and test the paint themselves and check to see if their children under 6 years old.
You're in trouble then.
Yeah, the property owner, it's their responsibility to get the client to complete this document, and then they'll tell you, oh, you don't need to pay to get a professional inspector. I would pay to get a professional inspector, because at the end of the day, if something happens, you're gonna go, oh, I wish I did it. No, they didn't get poisoned in your house, but maybe there's a little spot in the corner that is contaminated. You just never know. So. Go to the state attorney general website on housing and look up those laws, and so you don't make a mistake and say something, or get the right forms and documents that are needed.
Hey, Roxy had a good point here. Question, Blair, is there a possible monetary payout for the complainant, somebody that's going to complain on this, or is it just to give you a hard time?
Yeah, I've seen cases where they got $20,000 or $30,000. Oh, in this case, the individual, we tried to resolve it. He wants us to put the person who's living in the apartment out. He wants the apartment, but he wants to keep the complaint going.
Oh, okay. So you tried to just kind of say, listen, I don't have time for this.
He wants the apartment, but he didn't want to go through any conciliatory efforts. He just wanted to, yeah.
He want to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
New level, new devil.
Yep. That's all it is.
That's from Jake.
Been there already.
Round up. We got 72 people here. Get your questions in very quickly before we let Miss Blair get out of here. Robert, what's the best private money lenders? They're going to be ordinary people, Robert, regular ma and pa's, and people that you established on the private lending training course. There's a full class, hour and a half, that I show you how we raise our money. We raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can do it too. Roxy, will this complaint be listed on your public record?
It probably will. I guess if it's unfounded and if it's still there, I'm going to have it expunged.
Yeah, you have to go down there. I remember when I was arrested years ago for putting out "We Buy Houses" signs. I had to wait so many years to get mine expunged. They locked me up. I'm out there putting out signs, and they're going to take me. Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah,
Bay Area.
They'll
Hmm?
cancel your license probably for 60 days or something. Who knows? Yeah, I've never experienced this before.
Yeah. Have you had to hire counsel for this?
Excuse me?
Have you hired an attorney for this, or you
No,
haven't?
I'm doing it on my own.
Okay. Uh, it's Bay Area Real Estate says it's always good to take an introductory real estate class. That's true. That's true. In California, real estate principles. A good point.
Yeah, I do refresher courses.
Yeah, you gotta take all that stuff, man. Guys like investors, we're like, man, I gotta be out here trying to do deals. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, you have to stay. Even the investors have to stay on top of it.
Golly, EJ, Chris, why did y'all decide to do straight rent instead of Ron LeGrand's warning against such? Well, that's why I have Miss Blair on here. You see, I do have lease options. I got a bunch of those, and the other thing, all I have is Section 8. That's why I created the Landlord's Guide to Section 8 housing. I believe that. Let me ask Miss Blair. It's just uncertain. I don't know. The real estate market is just the values, employment, underemployment, jobs going away. Are you feeling that uncertainty too, Miss Blair?
I think it's dwindling. I think it's going to dwindle, and like in New York, there's like a mass exodus. I heard of people leaving, so I think it's going to go down, and then it'll probably come back up later on after COVID.
Yeah.
Is
We don't know though. You got a crystal
We
ball.
don't know. It's so uncertain.
Uncertainty. All right. We got 75 people. You that last thing? You're done, Miss Blair? I don't want. I want to make sure I get it all out. So
Do you have any other questions other than that?
No,
You
that's
know,
it.
like I
Okay.
said, do your research,
Good
and I
Lord.
guess just stay quiet.
Be
And
quiet. Ask
and
a few questions you need to
you
ask. And
learn
shut
out.
up.
You learn after the fact. After you rent the apartment, you can't ask any questions. So
Wow, this is deep. Okay, Roundup family. Listen, if you want to get my private lending training course, my private money training course, the link is in the video description. For today only, you'll get 65% off. It's less than $100. Use the coupon code RENT, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much for supporting us. Got 80 people here. Thank you, Miss Blair. It's an honor to be
thank
able to hang
you.
out with you. All
Yes,
right.
you too. Thank you.
See you later. Okay.
Bye bye.
Roundup, get your private money on. Get your private money. If you ain't raising private money, you are going to be in trouble because what's going to happen? The same thing in 2005. All these people bought houses, bought, and then a few years later, foreclosures just a wave of them, and we're just hitting there picking them up because money's easy to get now. In a few years, money won't be easy to get. It's just a cycle. It goes up. What I've noticed is it's tied to Wall Street. See, the problem is, Roundup, if you don't know this, people with a bunch of money, they have to get it working. They have to get it on the streets. So what do? They ease back regulations. Wall Street, right? It's just, it's a cycle if you look at it. Then they get a lot of money on the streets. People that borrow the money, they aren't worth the loans. They default on those loans. What do they call it? Credit defaults. Or then now we have credit default swaps. So we're switching it around. Just crazy. Credit defaults is why this thing happens. So they get the money on the streets. People borrow all the money. A few years later, they can't pay the payments. Foreclosures rise. That's when we come in, swoop all the good deals. Can't borrow money for years. And then all of a sudden, they loosen it up again. People borrowing. So it's just a cycle. I pray that we can withstand this cycle because it gets worse every time. Okay, so learn how to raise your private money, y'all. You guys know I love you. That's why I have Miss Blair on here to answer those questions about this fair housing thing. I don't want you to be discriminated against. I've been to court with one of those legal aids. See, what happens is people, low-income tenants like that, they get legal aid. They don't even have to pay for the attorney. And that attorney will clean your clock. If you don't, then you have to hire an attorney and pay thousands, and it's just nasty. So I don't want you to get discriminated against. Landlord's Guide to Section 8 Housing is here. Come on over to section8money.com and use coupon code RENT to get your private lending, my private money training course. All right. Roundup. This is it. I'm over and out. Subscribe, like the content, and share with any other investors you think can be helped by this information. I'll talk to you soon, Rounduppers. Peace.